struck me most about the book is that it's this amazing balance between a romance and this murder mystery thriller. That's, you know, you're like on the edge of your seat reading it, and then this romance just kind of wraps you up in the story.
Right.
How did you go about striking such a careful balance between the two elements?
I'm not sure I actually tried to strike a balance. It's just, I think I actually set out to write the thriller, but the girl in me had to have the romance in it too, so that just kind of found its way in. And so it just ended up happening that way. And originally it really was meant to be more of a thriller, just the romance. I really fell in love with Jay's part of the book, and so it became a bigger part of the book. So
a lot of the subject matter in The Body Finder, it's really dark, it's really intense for any book, but especially for young adult lit. What made you go in that direction?
Okay, so I grew up in a time when there wasn't a lot of really good YA. I was pretty much reading what my mom had laying around the house, and what my mom had laying around the house at the time was Stephen King and John Saul. And at the time, those were these really good ghost stories, or like The Shining and Christine, and you know, all the creepy stuff that was being put out by Stephen King at the time, the really good old Stephen King. And so I was reading a lot of dark stuff like at 12, 13, 14 years old. So I've always really liked that. And then moved on to like psychological thrillers and suspense. And so it's always kind of been, that's always been where my leaning is anyways. And so it was really easy for me when I decided to start writing, which was actually in my early 20s. I actually started writing horror for adults. So my first complete novel was this god-awful horror novel, which actually I got an agent for, shockingly, and thankfully will never see publication because it was really good practice. It just wasn't a really good book.
What role did the setting play for you when you were writing The Body Finder?
Almost the same feeling for me, is that it was almost another character because it takes place all in areas around where I live. So for me, like the backdrop of Mount Rainier and the lake and the woods around Violet's house are really places I know really well. They're places I go drive by every day. You know, the term "the mountain is out" is something that maybe people in the Pacific Northwest know, but other people don't know because we live in an area where cloud cover obscures the mountains all the time. So it's very common for us to say the mountain is out today. And so I kind of had to explain that when I wrote that in the book. But it was really fun to write that because it was such a familiar setting. It was such a familiar area for me. So it was a lot of fun.
What's next for Violet and her friends?
I don't know that I can say too much about it, but I really wanted to go in a different direction. I didn't want it to be another serial killer book right after The Body Finder. So for Desires of the Dead, there'll be more kind of exploring Violet's acceptance of her gift, and I'm trying to decide how much to give away. There'll be more exploring of her relationship with Jay. There'll be some tension between them as there's a group introduced. I don't want to give away too much. There will be dead bodies, and a group introduced that may help Violet kind of come to terms with what she can do.
Do you have more than one sequel planned? Are there more in the series that you have like a set number in your mind? Or?
In my head, I already have books 3 and 4 mapped out. And so I'm really hoping, fingers crossed, that the publisher agrees that 3 and 4 should be a go. Because to me, they're a really good progression to the story.
Okay.
So.
Anything else you're working on, or is it?
I do have something else I'm working on, and I'm super, super secret about my works in projects. So I have this jinx in my head that if I talk about it, it's going to be, the kibosh goes on everything. So I do have a project that's in my agent's hands now, and now we'll just kind of see how it plays out.
What would you say to reluctant teen readers to convince them to pick up a book?
This is something that I struggled with because I have an older daughter who I really wanted her to be a reader. Like her entire life I wanted her to be a reader, and she just wasn't a reader. I pretty much put every book I could think of in front of her, trying to find something that she liked. And that's my advice, is to just try a little bit of everything until you find something you like. And I have to say that one of the things that really frustrates me sometimes is I hear a lot of people that really, really put down the Twilight series. And for me, I guess my problem with that is that for my daughter, the Twilight series was the turning point for her. And so until she actually picked up the Twilight series, my daughter had never read a book, honest to God, other than for school, had never read a book through for pleasure. Once I finally got her, convinced her, nagged her to actually try it, and she read the books, probably all 4 of them within 3 weeks, I think. I mean, she got done with the first one, asked for the second one. I mean, she just kept asking, okay, I've read the second one, now I want the third one. And I just kept giving them to her because I was so excited that she was reading it. She read through them, probably reread them. And then for this last birthday, she asked all for Barnes & Noble gift cards because her reading habit has become so, she can't afford it anymore. And that's so exciting for me because she finally found something she liked. And I think that's the key, is finding something you like. I think everybody can be a reader if you find something you like.
What question do you always wish someone would ask you in an interview?
Oh my gosh. I have no idea. You know, one thing that I always think is funny that I don't hear more often is how I came up with the title for The Body Finder, because it actually is kind of a funny story. The title The Body Finder was never meant to be a title. It was actually kind of I call it my accidental title, because it was just, when I was writing the book, it was what Violet could do, so it was a placeholder file name on my computer.
Okay.
And I just assumed that the publisher, when they buy the book, just changes the name. They always change the name. You hear stories about authors, you know, kind of saying, I don't really like the name my publisher chose, or, you know, the publisher doesn't like the title I submitted, so we're going back and forth on titles. And so I just assumed that I would submit this book under the file name The Body Finder, because that's what Violet could do, and they would change it. And it was so funny because then the book sold, and like probably 2 months after editing, or 2 months into editing probably, my editor came back to me and says, Sales and Marketing loves the title. And I went, really? That they love The Body Finder? Because at the time I just still had in my head, I mean, I had started making some little alternate titles, you know, thinking they were going to come and say, The Body Finder's not really a title. So, and now that I've accepted that that's the title, and that it's got the cover it has because they wanted to go with something kind of pretty to kind of offset the title, The Body Finder. Yeah. I love it. It's just funny because I had never let myself get attached to it.
For fans waiting for the sequel to come out, what books would you recommend to them?
I really liked Beautiful Creatures. I thought was a great book. I love the Wicked Lovely series by Melissa Marr. I think Need by Carrie Jones was a good book. Gosh, there's so many. Shiver, Maggie Stiefvater. I never can say her name right. What else? I just read something else really good. I really liked Candor by Pam Batchors, and it was completely different than The Body Finder or any of the kind of girl romancy novels, but it was a boy protagonist, and it was kind of a dystopic, brainwashing twist. Very good book, really good. So I kind of recommend trying something different, kind of go outside of that romance genre. Okay. So,
what did you have for breakfast this morning?
Flaxseed toast.
If you could trade places with one person for a single day, who would it be?
Ooh, Oprah.
What was the last movie you saw?
Oh my gosh, The Hangover.
Biggest TV addiction?
Ooh, right now, Modern Family, my new favorite sitcom.
Guilty pleasure?
Another TV show, Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Fruits or veggies?
Veggies.
Favorite childhood toy?
The Easy Bake Oven.
Nice.